Hi, I'm Don Wright, and I'm standing here at Clear Creek Fire District Station number 21, the main station for Clear Creek, Springboro. And we're going to go in and talk to Fire Chief Robert Kidd here in a couple minutes and find out about the fire levy coming up on May 7th. Join me. We're talking to Chief Robert Kidd. And Robert, you are the chief of the Clear Creek Fire District.
Yes, sir.
Which includes Springboro and Clearcreek Township.
Absolutely. We serve both communities.
And how many people and how many miles?
Our district comprises about 50 square miles, and we have 46,000 residents, which is a marked increase from our 2000 population of 24,000.
Wow, that's almost double.
Absolutely.
In, well, it's 13 years now, but I know when my wife and I and our children moved here in 1977, I think we had 2,800. So we had a volunteer fire department at that time too. But today, you're looking after 50 square miles and 46,000 people. How many calls, let's take 2012 for example, how many calls did you respond to in 2012?
In 2012, we responded to about 2,700 calls. 2,000 of those calls were for medical emergencies, anything from a heart attack to a car accident. With that, just slightly over 1,000 of those calls occurred when another emergency was going on. So we needed more than one crew to be able to handle it.
Okay. And so you had 2,000, the other 700 were a mixture of?
Those could be fire emergencies,
okay.
Fire alarms. They could be a water rescue or someone who's locked themselves out of their home.
Okay, which is not, kind of takes a back seat to the more important
Absolutely.
ones. Right.
But it's still a need our citizens
Oh,
have.
no, I understand completely. Okay, a big thing today is technology. And let's talk technology just in the last 10 years. We've come a long way.
Absolutely.
And I know that you constantly have to replace technology to stay up to date on what's happening in the community. Is this something where grants are available or some sort of income from other sources?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. In the last 3 years, we've obtained over $2.5 million in grants. We recently replaced all of our self-contained breathing apparatus.
Okay.
The firefighters have to wear that whenever they enter a fire.
Sure.
Our equipment was over 10 years old. It was no longer up to the current standards of today. We received a $300,000 grant to replace those.
Now, where did that come from?
It came from the Assistance to Firefighters grant. It's a FEMA funding. We're
Okay.
required to post 10% of the total cost,
Okay.
which actually cost us less than the yearly maintenance on it.
Wow, that's amazing.
So, we were also able to receive funding to help pay for portions of our employee cost, salary and benefits.
Okay.
All of those combined, we were able to stretch our dollars a couple of extra years because $2.5 million is a lot of money.
Oh, yes. Now, we have, in the district right now, in that 50 square miles, we have 3 fire stations. The main station where we are right now, now the one is on South 48 near the Career Center.
Yes, sir.
In Clearcreek Township, and the other is out on Lytle Five Points.
Correct.
And is that in the township out there too?
Yes, it's in the township.
Okay. Now, the manpower in the total fire district for Springboro, Clearcreek Township is?
We have 72 personnel with a mixture of full-time and part-time.
Okay.
Staffing those stations. We operate 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Okay, and how many vehicles involved?
We currently staff 3 fire engines,
Okay.
3 ambulances.
3 fire engines. You have 1 big ladder truck.
Correct.
And then the other 2 are pumpers?
Well, we keep 3 fire engines without the big ladder on them.
Okay.
In 3 ambulances. For the last year, we've not had our ladder truck in service because we've had to reduce our personnel.
Oh, the ladder truck has not been in service.
It's not a primary response vehicle.
Okay.
Because we've tried to cut funding to help us get through shortfalls.
Okay, I was not aware of that. Okay, so we have this levy coming up on May 7th.
Yes.
And this is the first time the fire district has asked for a levy in 12 years.
Absolutely. We've gone a long time without asking for additional funds.
And you had projected 10 years, and it's been 12.
Yes.
Now, if the levy fails, are there going to be future cutbacks?
Yes, we're going to have to reduce by approximately 30 positions. We're going to have to close one of our fire stations. We're going to go from 3 fire engines to 2. We're going to reduce from 3 ambulances to 1. And those are pretty significant cuts. What's that mean to you? Our response times to your emergency are going to get longer than what they were before.
Speaking of that, what are the response times? Do you have some figures on that over the last few years or the last year?
In 2000,
Okay.
our response time was over 8 minutes.
Okay.
Today, our response time is at 5.5 minutes to your emergency.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like a lot, but 2.5 minutes, that means about a 25% difference in your survival from cardiac arrest or another significant medical event.
So it could be life or death in a situation like that.
Absolutely.
That's very important. Very important. Okay. The district itself, you said, has 46,000 people in this area,
Yes.
and that's a 50 square mile area. Can you compare it to townships around here and cities around here?
Yeah, we have a few comparisons.
Okay.
Washington Township to our north, they have 56,000 residents.
Now that's the township and the city of...
Yes, that's the
Centerville?
combined.
Okay, Centerville, Washington Township has 56,000.
Correct.
Okay.
And they cover 32 square miles.
A much smaller square mileage.
Yes.
Okay.
And they do that with 5 fire stations.
And they have 5. We have 3.
Correct.
And okay, that's a good comparison right there. So the fire district itself is working shorthanded right now.
Yes, we are.
Okay, and it could become worse.
It could, but we want to make sure we're cautious in how we manage our funds
Right.
and try to get extra time until we know we've secured funding to keep our resources where they need to be.
Okay. Very good. Well, Chief, let's take a look at one of the trucks over here and talk a little more about this levy coming up, okay?
Right.
We're sitting on ladder 21. Now, this is out of service right now, right?
Correct.
Okay, but it will come back in service, perhaps?
Sure. If we are able to regain our funding,
Okay.
we'll put the vehicle back in service. We're short on manpower right now due to the upcoming deficit within our budget.
Okay, now you mentioned something too, that you're using other communities for their ladder trucks right now.
Yes. We're having our neighboring jurisdictions send us their ladder truck when ours is out of service like it is today.
Okay. That would be Miami Township?
Predominantly the Miami Valley Fire District, formerly known as Miami Township.
Okay, very good. What, the levy, if the levy passes, what do you foresee for the next 10 or 12 years? Where are we going here with the fire department for the next decade?
With the current economic situation all of us face, the department's not going to grow. We're going to maintain the status that we currently have. We're keeping our responses, we're keeping our 3 stations. We are not building a new facility, and we're going to bring our manpower up to meet today's need, and if we need growth in the future, we'll get there. We do have some pretty big ticket items that are coming up for replacement. We have 2 of our fire engines, 1 of our ambulances, and our rescue truck that are going to reach the end of their serviceable life. Our rescue truck's about 20 years old now. It's going to cost $375,000 to replace. A fire engine costs $500,000, and we need 2 of them. Our ambulance is $225,000.
What is the life expectancy mileage or in years for a piece of equipment like that?
It is a large capital investment, but we usually get a pretty good lifespan out of it. Now, most of us think about how long we keep a car.
Right.
We keep an ambulance for 10 years. It's one of our highest used vehicles.
Okay.
We've had a couple of our ambulances we've been able to stretch to the 12 and 13 year mark, but unfortunately it's getting very expensive to maintain them. And if you were to take a ride in one, it'd be very unpleasant.
Are those the bumpy ones you get in that go up and down like that?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the suspension breaks down over time in them,
Okay.
and it makes a pickup truck feel like a pleasant ride sometimes.
Very good, Robert. I was wondering about that. I think I had a ride in one of those not too long ago.
Yeah.
So anyway, more about what's coming in the years ahead. Is the technology changing?
We constantly have new standards that we're required to meet. because of our safety profession we're in. In 2 years, we have to replace the cardiac defibrillators that our paramedics use on our fire engines and our ambulances for life-saving treatment to determine if you're having a heart attack or not, take you to the right hospital.
Okay.
Those are very expensive items. We're going to be spending over $250,000 to replace those. And we're going to replace them because they can't be serviced anymore.
Wow. Okay, now, this brings me to this point. Medicine today, your history of an individual, medical history of an individual, is being all digitized and put into a computer. Is that something you'll have access to when you go to a home where somebody has had a heart attack? Will your paramedic be able to call into the hospital and get the information on the individual?
We won't be able to contact the hospital to get the information, but we can send what we have to the hospital. So if our paramedics were to look at a 12-lead EKG, we can actually send that directly to a physician at the hospital, and we initiate what's called a cardiac alert. With this, we reduce what's called the door-to-cath time. Our paramedics determine that you're having a heart attack, they contact the emergency room, and they bring the entire team into play to increase your chance of survival and reduce the damage from a heart attack.
Wow. So they would know then, if you're contacting ER, like say, let me give an example, Sycamore Medical Center. I'm sure a lot of people go there because it's probably the closest access.
Yeah, it's one of our closest.
Okay. And say I was to have a heart attack, you would contact Sycamore. Well, Sycamore has all my records. That's where our family's gone for 30-some years. They would know right away. If you would have my name, would they know right away then?
They would have the ability if they wanted to bring up your records upon our arrival or while we're en route.
Okay.
The primary thing they want to identify is what does your heart look like today versus maybe a year ago when you had a 12-lead done at your family doctor or your cardiologist, if that's in their system.
Okay. Very good. Well, other things. We've got 3 stations, so we're going to stay at 3 stations. We're not looking at building a 4th.
No, it's not the time for us to do it. With future growth, we really need to look at it.
Okay.
But we just can't ask for that much money right now.
Okay, and let's talk about future growth. We had a tremendous growth in the 90s and the first decade of the 21st century here in Springboro. Just leaps and bounds, double, triple, what have you. Things really slowed down, but things are taking off again. I mean, we're seeing building permits issued right now and what have you, but you don't feel like growth is going to expand to where it was years ago.
No, I don't think we're going to see the tremendous growth that we had seen before. We're going to have a slow, steady growth, in my opinion.
Okay. We have now then, you have now, in our communities of Springboro and Clearcreek Township, the manpower and the equipment to handle future growth to a certain amount.
Right. With the regaining of our funds, we'll be able to meet today's needs and the next few years of need for Springboro and Clearcreek Township.
Very good. So the levy's coming up on May 7th, and it's up to the community to vote yay or nay and decide whether the funds will be available or not.
Our citizens will decide what level of service they want delivered.
Okay. Chief, I can't thank you enough. Great information.
Thanks for coming out today. We really appreciate it.